Health. It is November 24th, 2025, and meeting is called to order at 4:33 p.m. Public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone here? No, there's no members from the public, so we will move on to review minutes from October 27th. Board of Health meeting in October. Oh, yeah, because we have executive sessions in November 12th. Okay, first one. September 22nd.
Yeah, we didn't have a quorum of members who were attending that meeting that had been at the previous meeting.
Does it have to, it's not on the agenda, does it have to be on first?
Yeah.
It should have been. Okay.
There were-
I'm not sure.
We're never gonna get that one signed.
I know. Okay, so we will move this over to the next meeting. October 27th. Okay. This is for the regular meeting held October 27th, 2025. Do we have a motion to?
Just one little grammatic thing, you tell me if that's not even a big deal, but real technical, Walmart deli and prepared food renovations are complete, and then it says, I did the pre-opening inspection. I'm sure that was you writing it, but maybe you shouldn't say I, because it's not.
The pre-opening inspection had been completed.
Yeah, it was done last week.
What page is that on?
Yeah, just grammatically, because it's not signed off by a regular person. Other than that, I can make a motion to approve with that correction.
Second? All in favor? Or any discussion? Any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
And yes, Jeff was at.
Isn't that around and all of it signed? I can add the second page because we have 3 pages on this one. Thank you.
And then the next meetings to review is October 27th, executive session meeting minutes at 5:30 p.m. And it basically describes our discussion on our interview process for replacing the health director.
We need a motion to accept.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make that motion to accept the executive session meeting minutes from November 12th.
Okay.
And I will second that.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we have another one from
Yeah.
October 27th, I think, too, for that.
The next one is executive session meeting minutes held November 12th, 2025, where we conducted interviews for the health director position.
I'll make a motion to accept that, those meeting minutes from October 27th.
And I'll second the motion.
And all in favor? Aye. Okay, so next on the item is Health Department updates.
As you guys all know, the Director, Administrative Coordinator, and the Transfer Station Supervisor positions remain vacant. Due to the staffing situation, it's been very difficult to do training with the new administrative assistant. So we've discussed that with Human Resources, and we're going to be closing the office between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. daily for the next 2 weeks. No traffic in the office, phones on Do Not Disturb, so that we can focus on training, get the staff organized, and give them tasks that they can accomplish throughout the day. That way we can, lessen some of the stress and confusion that's happening when you get interrupted 6 times while you're trying to teach her a 10-minute task. So that way we can focus and get her really a good foundation for starting. The landfill and transfer station and solid waste, the LHA pump replacement and groundwater monitoring project. Eric is still monitoring the levels of LHA. He's actually having Wind River come tomorrow to pump again. That's going to be about every other week until they're fixed. The Finance Committee initially moved this item to the full City Council, and the City Council sent it back to the Finance Committee for more additional information. So that's meeting tomorrow. John Richards did provide a full accounting of the current funds set aside and sent that to the City Clerk to include in the next packet. And again, that meeting is tomorrow if you guys want to join.
So then it has to go back to council again? to
Yep.
be voted on?
Which will be next week, I believe, on Monday.
So in all likelihood, I thought this was all settled way, way back, so in all likelihood, this is not gonna get repaired this fall.
It's going to depend on weather.
And did they say why
There was some
they did
confusion.
not want to vote on it?
Yeah, there was confusion because we did put aside funding last year to have the pumps repaired, and then the price went up, and we needed to continue to look for additional funds, and they thought we spent the money they gave us last year. We're asking for more money to fix something that was repaired last year. They wanted to know if it needed to be repaired or replaced. I said, we're actually replacing everything this time. So they just thought we were asking for money twice, basically.
So when it was approved the first time,
It was sent through Finance Committee because of the urgency of the nature of the project, and Finance Committee kicked it back.
Oh.
So I explained it to all the Finance Committee members. I just was not at a council meeting because Finance
So
Committee had enough information.
that was last fall?
That was spring of 2025.
Right, when they approved it,
Mhm.
it was, I didn't realize they had approved it then.
They approved a portion of the money that we need now
Right,
in spring of, or late winter of last year.
right.
We never spent the money because the contract, request for proposal had expired. We didn't get the contract secured. Then when we asked for new bids this summer, we only got one bid, and it was for a lot more money than we had initially expected to spend on this project.
Oh, this is so frustrating.
So what happens next? We do another bid?
No, so we are still have a contractor who's very eager to start. They've called my office every week,
Okay.
waiting to see if the funds have been approved so they can get started. I should have an answer, I hope, tomorrow, and I will update Sue as soon as I hear something. But that meeting is at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, too, in front of the
Yeah.
Finance Committee again.
I don't,
and this is at the substantially increased price.
Yes,
from
right,
what
which the contractor's already willing to do it at that price.
At that price.
So, I don't know that I'm pretty sure I can't make that meeting, but if there's anything else that,
I got it.
yeah, you got all that
Yeah.
information, so.
I worked with John Richard and with, I asked Micah some questions, I looked through the files, I coordinated with CEC to make sure that we had the full scope of the project, I read the request for proposal, and I think we have it.
Okay, and then Finance Committee will then put it back on the agenda for the council so they can vote on it
Yes.
again. Okay.
And I will see if I can't update the mayor directly about what the urgency of this is.
Okay.
So he is aware that, if I had been there to speak for the health department, and typically the department heads aren't at the full council meetings, we go to the subcommittee meetings,
Right.
and we present our items to the subcommittee, and they're supposed to present them to
Right.
the full council. And I feel like between Thursday when the finance committee meeting happened and Monday when the city council met, they just lost track of that one fact that we did not spend that first amount of money. We didn't spend a lot of money to fix something that's broken again. That's what I think happened.
Okay.
I watched the meeting from home that night. So back to the repair of the erosion to the landfill cap. So we currently do not have funding for that project. We had a CEC inspection on October 22nd and a corrective action plan and schedule was issued. The eroded areas of division burns and letdown channels on the south side of the landfill will need to be budgeted by the city. Per conversation with Mass DEP, the repairs will be classified as maintenance repairs. CEC will observe and document the repairs once a contractor is selected by the city of Gardner. I'm going to approach the mayor about asking Keller and Partners, that's the city grant company that we've hired to write grants and find us money, to see if they can look to find more options for us. And I also did a little bit of quick research on some different grants and funding that are available. So I'm going to review this more. I just haven't had the opportunity to look this up Saturday. So I'll present this to the mayor also, and I will see what I can come up with for funding for that project.
Previously, that project, years back, probably now, was also, an estimate was given, but that is probably much, because nothing's been done with it going out to bid because we have no funds for it, correct?
No, we have no plans for it. Hasn't been, and now that the pumps are in failure, that has become the priority.
Okay.
So so I actually also had a surprise DEP inspection last week at the Cap landfill on November 19th. Their report is not finished yet, but they did send me an email with some questions that I will be answering this week or early next week related to the timelines for the repairs on the pumps. I feel like I need a little more time to find out what's going to happen in finance and full council before I can update them with an accurate plan. And I also forwarded it to the mayor and Sue.
Just to clarify, we've been under Mass DEP non-compliance order, correct?
Yes.
To repair it.
Yes.
So, and the effects of not repairing that the impact it has on the leachate pump system is, it's all, no, I know, I'm not either, but
I
it's
assume
got to go together somehow.
I assume that because the runoff is being misdirected, maybe it's burdening the pumps more, or maybe it's ponding and pooling on top of the erosion craters and draining down through the substrate and getting to the liner and hitting the pumps. I think that's a reasonable hypothesis. But yeah, so that's where we are with the Cap landfill and the inspection. And I'm going to bring that also to the attention of the Finance Committee tomorrow, because I wrote Wednesday, but it's actually Tuesday.
And clarifying with them that this is a whole separate project that
Yes.
needs to be addressed as well.
Yes,
Okay.
I will. So that's it for the landfill. For food establishment, we had a farmer's market on Saturday. I was inspecting there. We had 6 permitted vendors. We had 1 permitted vendor show up. He had permits from other cities and towns for events he's done this year. He had his serve safe with him. He had his allergen awareness with him. So I did let him stay because I could review those documents, but it was obvious to me that he knew he was supposed to have permits, so he's been given 48 hours to complete a permit application from today. There have been no foodborne illness reports. We still have several new food establishments in process. The daycare on Colburn Street is still in plan review with me and with the building commissioner. They started out doing a lot of work without permits from anybody. And now we want them to put the permits in place before they are allowed to continue. They sent me a couple of different designs and they want me to choose one for them, and I had to let them know that that's not my rule. They have to choose a design that meets the operations of the plan that they submit, and then I check it for compliance. They had 2 very different plans, and it was very dependent on, I'm not sure of the overseeing body for daycares. It's not DESI, it's something else.
No, it's,
But they had to get it approved, and their first menu wasn't even approved, so I don't even have a menu yet to be able to evaluate what processes they need to be able to reach to approve a plan.
But wouldn't they have, I mean, I would think they would have building permits and plans drawn up, because they have to make sure there's bathrooms enough per the amount of students or children that they have plus staff and all
I
that.
have a very basic, kind of, not hand-drawn, but like a simple CAD program, floor layout, but not architectural plans. The building commissioner and I both stepped in and said, you need to stop and you need to go and get your, they're working with a design professional. So we need those plans, we need the permits in place, and the design professional seems to be hesitant to make decisions. He wants, like, me to make decisions, and I said, that's not my role here, that's what they're paying me for.
Yeah, they
So-
need to present the plans the right.
Yeah, and then I tweak them if there's something missing, but I don't choose between A and B or C, because I'm not gonna be liable for that. And then they change what they're gonna do for a menu, because their overseeing authority comes back with a different menu than they anticipated, and now we have to change the whole thing again. So what they really should have done was an approved menu, figured out what they needed to do to maintain that menu, to process that, the food's there for storage space for those items, and then should have done their plan review submitted by me, and then started building permits after I reviewed the whole plan. They've never really submitted a complete plan with any of the trades or the health department. So that's where we're stuck there. Four Seasons, a new bar area is complete and has been inspected. Dunkin' Donuts on Timpani Boulevard, the renovation is complete and has been inspected, it looks great. Gabby's on Pearson Boulevard is still undergoing extensive renovations because they did come up with some asbestos on site, so now they have to do an abatement on that.
Where's Four Seasons?
Four Seasons is the old J2 over by where D'Angelo's used to be, near Taylor Rental,
Okay.
in that area. Housing, still a lot of no heat calls. Eric's great at following up with the owners. He's very persistent and he gets the items fixed relatively quickly, so I'm happy about that. Update on bed bug infestations at that apartment complex we spoke about last month. 2 pest control treatments have been completed. Eric and I met with the property manager after the second treatment, and most of the activity in the hallways and the adjacent units were all exterminated. They saw very little activity after the second treatment. Eric went back and did a walkthrough after the second treatment, and he did see some activity in the main unit that we were concerned about. We did condemn that unit before they started treatments. The occupant is at a local hotel. The property manager hired a company called Trauma 24/7 to prep the unit for her and paid for it out of their own expenses. They bagged up all of her personal items, knotted and tied the bag shut, and then they did the 2 treatments. There's still light activity in that unit. We met again with the property manager. We discussed our concerns and challenges about what to do next, because my largest concern is that we let the occupant back in and she just starts ripping open the bags. And she's not cleaning the items, laundering the items, not, eliminating the bugs that could be in the bags. And they can live for 6 months to a year without oxygen, without eating, so it's really hard to get rid of them. You really have to treat these. So we discussed getting her grandson involved again. Now that the infestation is waning, we're hoping he will pitch in now, because it's not as serious or as much of a threat for him to get to be carrying him out of the unit. So another treatment will be happening this week. It's either going to be on Wednesday or Friday, because it was supposed to be on Thursday, and of course that's Thanksgiving. So I'll get an update for probably by Monday on that, and let you know next month where that is. There was a Ford family condemned on Greenwood Street after a fire. All of the occupants were housed by the property manager at a local hotel that night. There was a delay in the health department being notified. The building commissioner got called out to the scene, and it was not condemned for structural, but they cut the water, gas, and electricity to the building, and they had some ceiling collapse from water damage. There was a 3rd floor / attic fire, and it all cascaded down throughout the building, and there was some drywall ceilings that had collapsed in there. The fire department nor anyone else notified me until Thursday, 7 days later almost. So I worked on that condemnation this weekend. Out of that, I learned that I need to, or we should have a who to call when chart, and I built that. The commissioner's on vacation this week, so I'm going to go over that with her next week to make sure that we have a clear understanding of who should be responsible and who should be called, and we're going to get that dispatch fire and PD. Housing court. I do have one person still in housing court. Heating systems were repaired, the smokes were installed, he's fixing the hot water heater tomorrow. So I'm excited about that, because that's since March of last year. And it took me 6 months to get him into housing court, so now he's starting to feel some pressure, he's starting to move forward. As long as he's continuing to move forward with his repairs, we're not gonna file a contempt, because he was technically in contempt in late October. But he was making repairs, and we don't wanna slow down progress, we don't wanna continue to argue. If he doesn't keep moving forward, then we'll bring it back into court. The prevention coordinator is working on the Harper Grace Run to bring awareness to pregnancy and infant loss awareness month. She's still doing game changers at the high school and at the college. She's doing vaping prevention presentations at the Gardner Academy, planning of the Purple Paws event, which will take place in the spring. And we have a planned suicide prevention and mental health panel at Gardner High School and Gardner Academy. She's also doing bully prevention at Gardner Middle School coming up. I discussed today actually about with Victoria from the MPHN about doing another public clinic, and she actually confirmed, no, I'm sorry, that came back from Emily, there was not a venue available, we're looking for a second date. We're trying to confirm with the PACC. We want to try to get one in before Christmas, because we did have a bunch of people who came to get flu shots who were not having access to COVID, because the COVID arrived like 2 days after the first 2 clinics were done. So we're trying to see if we can get any catch up there.
Nothing at the city hall's not available?
We could, but I feel, I'll ask Victoria why we're trying so hard to get the PACC. I think we initially said that because we were trying to get one in before Thanksgiving,
Right.
and it got kind of lost in the shuffle
The
of
city
all of our
area
emergencies.
Victoria
We
is
have,
pretty
it's,
convenient for most
it's
people.
very convenient for most people. We have about 12 activities happening in there. There's a
Yeah.
chorus thing happening. We have several Christmas parties happening in the auditorium. So just, yeah, so that might be one of the challenges. I can reach back out to Victoria and see about that. And then that's about all. New business, I just had on Sharp's disposal to discuss again, and medical disposal, medication disposal. If anybody had any questions about that, those were the 2 items when I was reviewing the minutes from last night. I was like, oh, yeah, I dropped those too, I'm sorry.
So currently, there's, somehow over the years, there's been some loss of communication between the Sharps container and medication disposal container. There are contracts with MPHN that I think somehow the police has just somehow absorbed, taken over, and it's become costly. But there is a contract that we can sign up for. I know the chief was away, so I didn't send anything. I figured after the holidays I'll send it again. I've tried to explain that. And then the medication, there's currently no kiosk there for medication disposal. I spoke with Steve Curry, who's director of the MPHN, and also Fitchburg's Board of Health Director, Health Director. And he gave me a cost of like $69 or something a month for disposal with a certain company, that there was a contract they had. But we haven't really quite, we need to sit down with the chief again and try to explain that, because there's no reason, initially the Board of Health did absorb the costs, and somehow, like I said, I think before the current chief came, it somehow got switched over, so.
Yeah, at some point in time when I was still working as an administrator, we were paying that bill.
Yeah.
And I think may have been during COVID that they actually offered to pay us, so that it was not as confusing, because they would call us, we would call Stericycle to tell Stericycle to come pick up the container at the PD. It was just too many people involved.
Yeah.
So we streamlined it, and then I feel like when the police chief and deputy chief changed, we might have lost some of that knowledge, that legacy information.
So they were having the state police, they were taking the medications to be disposed of to the state police, and they incinerated it, but it got costly and a large backup. So now there's no kiosk there, so there's no place for people to take their medication. So that's why we'll follow back up with the chief on that. Okay. The FEP tabletop exercise, do you want to talk about that?
We can talk about that.
Emergency dispensing site
Yep,
discussion.
so last Thursday, we had a PrEP tabletop event down at the Gardner PD. We had a few people attend. It was not as well attended as I had hoped. We still have to work through some of the exercise together after the event, but we did have some good ideas come out of that, and we had some good collaboration, I thought, coming out of that.
Just to clarify, it's the Public Health Emergency Preparedness. We belong to Region 2, which is mostly all of central Massachusetts. And it might be a little bit of confusion because the city, out of City Hall, I believe, Economic Development, they are currently looking at hazardous mitigation plan, which from my understanding is part of a deliverable for the master plan for the city. But that's more looking at, I think the good example that was given us was like if the dam in South Gardner were to break and all of South Gardner got flooded, what kind of things would we need prepared for, that the city could do to mitigate, not happen, you know.
Like it's more about preventing it than
Right.
waiting for it to happen and responding. They're trying to look for other mitigation methods so that they don't have these events happen. We're kind of preparing for when they happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the examples they use, you know, like cyber attack of a hospital's, communication system. I mean, obviously, I've been involved with it for a long, back in, was it 2008 when we had the H1N1 virus, setting up clinics, and of course, COVID. If it's cold out and it's too cold, then we need to open up a warming center, where that would happen and at what point that would happen, and involving, everybody with whether it's a health crisis preparedness, or like, when this fire happened and, 4 families were displaced, on a smaller scale, what would happen and stuff. So it's really was quite interesting and quite involved with, it was nice, Paul Topowski was there from CERT, chief from fire, I know the police chief was
In a different
in a
meeting.
different state, or I don't know, he was not available. But, there was, and we had a MEMA person, representative, working with us. So the FEP involves a lot of what MEMA, FEMA, all those terminologies, but, really for preparation for emergency preparedness. It came in very handy when COVID happened, and, something that, again, it's being ready in case something happens, and, whatever we could do preventative-wise, but mainly it's being ready, for that, which leads us into the emergency dispensing site discussion.
Yeah, so we are, when we were doing the EDS drill, emergency dispensing site drill recently, we discovered that the materials and the facilities lists need to be updated along with contact lists. And when I sent stuff out to Wayne Anderson, I sent stuff out to Mike Ellis at the senior center, which are our 2 locations for some of our things. We discovered that the elementary school and the middle school would probably be better suited because they're newer buildings, they have loading docks, they have better access, they have showers, and other things that would be very helpful. They're just more modern. So that's, we're gonna probably move our emergency dispensing site to GES, I think, because it's the newest school, and then have a backup. And I think the backup at some point, which is currently the senior center on Pleasant Street, is gonna need to be looked at when we move the senior center down to Waterford Street School, which used to be the emergency dispensing site, but then the school closed. Now we're opening the building back up for a senior center, for the food processing, growing places. We're gonna have the CAC down there, and we're gonna have some other businesses down there. But there's quite a bit of room there. We have the auditorium, we have a cafeteria, there's food services, and 2 kitchens down there, plenty of bathrooms, so we're looking at it as a backup site, plus plenty of parking.
Well, Waterford was, even before the school closed, we didn't find it useful or beneficial. There were a lot of barriers to having that as the dispensing site, so that's why we moved it up to the high school. But yeah, we do have to look at as it's reopened, because right now the senior center is used for like, if it's a warming or cooling center. If we only, or if we had to move a small number of people to, we would use the senior center. They have food preparation currently at the place on Pleasant Street. If we needed to have a larger amount of people with a shelter or dispensing sites, then we'd have to look at closing the schools, and that, would be, we don't want to do that if we don't have to, but the elementary school, for a lot of reasons, has beneficial, especially just reaching them and stuff, when you get in traffic. But yeah, once Waterford's all done, we could have to look at that as going through, there's a whole framework to go through and doing the drill and checking off this and that, there's access and, food if needed for shelter, etc. So we'll have to look at all that.
And going back on Waterford Street as a school, it didn't have a lot of accessibility because it didn't have ramps, it didn't have wide doorways, it had 30-inch doorways, which are challenging sometimes to get people who have walkers or wheelchairs through the door or other assistive devices. They have torn out those doors and made the building accessible. They are putting in ramps where the concrete was starting to fail. So now we have, instead of a two-step up, you have a ramp. So the accessibility is getting better.
Good.
So I'm very excited about that. We made it into a senior center. We had to make it more accessible because we couldn't make it less accessible than we had.
And they would have the kitchens and stuff available too, so, yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you're doing, keeping the health department running, and you're doing a great job. You're doing a really great job. I know it's been a lot. I'm glad that Dewan's gonna be able to get trained by closing the office for a couple hours each day, and that's a quiet week, should be a quiet week. What about with the transfer station staffing, that's still?
So we're still down the supervisor. Eric is supervising right now. He comes from working in waste management and at EL Harvey, so that is his comfort zone, that's his ballpark right there. And he's very comfortable managing the AHA pumps when they have to come and pump them out, because they won't connect and disconnect, because apparently it's messy. So Eric does it, and then he comes back to the office and he changes and goes about his day. But he's doing great down there.
And transfer stations closed?
Thursday and Friday,
Thursday and
Wednesday and
Friday.
Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's happening with hiring into that position? Is it?
I was told by Human Resources and the mayor that those hiring for those positions is on hold until the new director is installed and ready to hire somebody.
I know the administrator, knew about the administrator position.
It's posted. It's been posted since September 23rd. They're collecting resumes, but they're not sharing them, and they're not. I don't know if they're telling anybody that there's a pause. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm apparently not allowed to know. So
I know that the administrator position was decided that the new health director would hire that person. Of course, at that point, the transfer station vacancy was not
it's never been
at
posted.
that point. Okay.
Yeah. And they did move it from a full-time position to a part-time position. I tried to advocate for the health department. I can teach somebody how to answer the phones and sell tickets at the counter long enough, well enough, fast enough to be able to then focus on one or the other's training. But with only myself and Dewan in the office, it's not working. So now we're closing the office for 2 hours a day, and that was supported by the mayor and by Human Resources.
Okay, next agenda, new business.
I have no new business.
Anyone? Okay. So it's not on the copy of the agenda that we have in front of us, but
It was posted.
was posted that we could go into executive session to further discuss the hiring of the health director. So if we can take a motion to move into executive session and adjourn from there,
motion to
Okay.
move to executive session.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Uh,
Thank you.
Thank you.